Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the stars blur past through the viewport. This was humanity's first journey beyond their solar system, and Jake felt the weight of history on his shoulders. The ship hummed quietly as it moved through space at speeds that would have been impossible just 5 years ago. Lisa Parker looked up from her science station, her eyes bright with excitement. She had been studying the readings from their destination for weeks now. Alpha Centauri was supposed to be empty, but her instruments were picking up something unusual. "Captain, I'm getting some strange signals ahead," Lisa said, her voice carrying. Across the quiet bridge, Jake walked over to her station and looked at the displays. The numbers and graphs meant little to him, but Lisa's worried expression told him everything he needed to know. "What kind of signals?" he asked. "Metal, lots of it, moving in patterns that don't look natural," Lisa replied. "I think we might not be alone out here." Engineer Tony Martinez looked up from his work console in the corner of the bridge. He had been quiet during most of the journey, focused on keeping the ship's new, faster-than-light drive working properly. This was only the second time humans had used this technology, and Tony wanted to make sure they could get home safely. "How far are we from the source?" Jake asked. "About 6 hours at current speed," Lisa answered. Jake thought for a moment. This was exactly what Earth had sent them to find out. Were there other intelligent species in the galaxy, and if so, were they friendly? The answer to that question would change everything for humanity. "Reduce speed to half," Jake ordered. "Let's approach carefully." The next few hours passed slowly. The crew worked quietly at their stations, all of them aware that they might be about to make the most important discovery in human history. Lisa's readings grew stronger as they got closer, and soon she could make out individual objects on her sensors. "Captain, I'm seeing ships," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Big ones. At least 20 of them in a formation pattern." Jake felt his heart start to beat faster. Ships meant intelligence. Intelligence meant they were not alone in the universe. But it also meant potential danger. "Can you tell if they've seen us?" he asked. "I don't think so. We're still pretty far away, and our ship is much smaller than theirs." Security Chief Ryan Burke stepped forward from his position near the weapons console. He was a big man with steady hands and calm eyes, exactly the kind of person you wanted watching your back in unknown territory. "Sir, should we prepare defensive systems?" Ryan asked quietly. Jake nodded. "Do it quietly, no active scans or targeting systems. Just get ready." The alien ships were massive compared to the Horizon. Each one was easily 10 times the size of the human vessel, with sleek designs that seemed to flow like water frozen in metal. They moved in perfect formation like a school of fish swimming through the dark ocean of space. Lisa worked frantically at her console, trying to learn everything she could about these mysterious ships. Their technology seemed advanced, possibly centuries ahead of human science. The energy readings alone were beyond anything Earth had ever produced. "Captain," Lisa said urgently, "they're changing course. They're coming toward us." Jake felt ice form in his stomach. The alien ships had somehow detected the Horizon despite their careful approach. 20 massive vessels were now moving directly toward his small exploration ship. "Tony, how fast can we run?" Jake asked. "Full speed would get us back to Earth in about 2 weeks, Tony replied. "But they look faster than us." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Everyone understood what this meant. They were about to make first contact with an alien species, but not under the peaceful circumstances they had hoped for. "Open a communication channel," Jake ordered. "All frequencies." Ryan worked at his console for a few moments, then nodded. "Channel open, sir." Jake took a deep breath. The next words he spoke might determine the future relationship between humanity and whatever species controlled those ships. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship. Horizon. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly relations with your people." The response came back immediately, but not in words. Instead, the alien ship suddenly accelerated toward the Horizon at incredible speed. Weapon systems that had been hidden inside their sleek hulls, suddenly emerged and began to glow with deadly energy. "They're targeting us!" Ryan shouted. Jake grabbed the communication device one more time. "We are not hostile." "Repeat, we are not hostile, we wish to talk." The alien response was a beam of pure energy that barely missed the Horizon's hull. The ship shook as the energy passed close by, and several console displays flickered and died. "That was a warning shot," Ryan said grimly. "The next one won't miss." Jake realized with growing horror that humanity's first contact with alien life was about to become a fight for survival. These beings, whoever they were, had decided that humans were enemies without even trying to communicate. "Tony, emergency." "Jump back to Earth, now," Jake ordered. "I need 30 seconds to charge the drive," Tony replied. His hands flying over his controls, the alien ships fired again, and this time they weren't aiming to miss. Admiral Kate Sullivan stared at the emergency message that had just arrived at Earth Defense Command. The automated signal from the Horizon had taken 6 months to reach Earth, traveling through space at the speed of light. By now, Jake Morrison and his crew were either dead or prisoners of an alien species that had attacked them without warning. Kate read the message again, hoping she had misunderstood something. The data was clear. The Horizon had encountered 20 alien warships near Alpha Centauri. The aliens had fired on the human ship immediately after Jake tried to make peaceful contact. The ship's emergency beacon had activated. Just before the signal cut out completely, Director Paul Henderson of the United Earth Council walked into Kate's office without knocking. His face was pale and his usually perfect suit looked wrinkled. He had obviously been up all night dealing with this crisis. "How bad is it?" Paul asked, sitting down heavily in the chair across from Kate's desk. "Bad," Kate replied simply. "We're not alone in the universe, and whoever else is out there shoots first and doesn't bother asking questions." Paul rubbed his forehead with both hands. As head of the United Earth Council, he was responsible for making decisions that affected all of humanity. This was by far the biggest decision he had ever faced. "What are our options?" he asked. "Right now we have 3 choices," Kate said, counting on her fingers. "We can try to send another diplomatic mission and hope these aliens are willing to talk. We can pretend this never happened and hope they don't come looking for Earth. Or we can prepare for war." "War?" Paul looked shocked. "Against aliens with technology we don't understand? That would be suicide." Kate was about to respond when her communication device buzzed. The voice that came through was weak and tired, but she recognized it immediately. It was Dr. Lisa Parker. "Earth Defense Command, this is Dr. Parker from the Horizon." "I'm transmitting from a small escape pod about 1 light-year from Alpha Centauri. Is anyone receiving this?" Kate grabbed the device so fast she almost dropped it. "Lisa, this is Admiral Sullivan." "We're receiving you. What's your status?" "I'm alive, but barely." Lisa's voice crackled through the static. "The Horizon was destroyed. Most of the crew is dead. I managed to escape in a pod, but I've been drifting for months." "What happened out there?" Kate asked. Lisa's voice became harder, filled with anger that Kate had never heard from the gentle scientist before. "They're called Zephyrians. They're a warrior species that controls this entire section of the galaxy. They don't negotiate, they don't talk, they just conquer or destroy. And Kate, they know about Earth now." Paul and Kate looked at each other with growing fear. This was worse than they had imagined. "How long do we have?" Kate asked. "Their main fleet was already preparing to leave when I escaped. Maybe 6 months, maybe less. They're coming to finish what they started." The communication went silent for several minutes while Kate arranged for a rescue ship to find Lisa's pod. When the connection was restored, Lisa had more bad news. "There's something else you need to know," Lisa said. "I spent 3 months as their prisoner before I escaped. I learned their language and studied their technology. Kate, they have over 10,000 ships. They've conquered dozens of species. They think we're just another primitive race that needs to be eliminated." Kate felt her blood turn cold. 10,000 ships against Earth's tiny fleet of converted civilian vessels and experimental military prototypes. It wasn't a war, it was an execution. After the communication ended, Paul and Kate sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Paul spoke. We need to call an emergency session of the World Council. Every nation needs to know what we're facing. Over the next week, Kate found herself in meeting after meeting with world leaders, military commanders, and scientists. The debate was always the same. Some people wanted to try diplomacy. Others wanted to hide and hope the aliens would never find Earth. A few suggested surrender. Colonel Don Rodriguez, Earth's top military strategist, had a different idea. He stood before the assembled leaders in the main conference room and laid out his analysis with brutal honesty. We can't fight them with conventional tactics, Don said. They have better ships, better weapons, and centuries more experience in space warfare. But they've never fought humans before, and that might be our only advantage. General Marcus Stone, the head of Earth's ground forces, nodded in agreement. Every species they've conquered has followed the same pattern. Formal battles, honorable conduct, fighting by rules that both sides understand. Humans don't fight that way. Dr. Elena Vasquez, who led Earth's advanced weapons research, stood up next. I've been working on theoretical projects that might give us an edge. Things that violate every treaty we've ever signed about warfare, but these aliens haven't signed those treaties. Kate listened to the discussions with growing understanding. Humanity couldn't win a traditional war against the Zephyrians, but humans had never been traditional fighters. From the ancient Greeks hiding inside a wooden horse to modern guerrilla warfare, humans had always found ways to win against superior enemies. What exactly are you proposing? Paul asked. Don looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. Total war. Not the kind of limited conflict we fought among ourselves, but complete mobilization of every resource, every weapon, every dirty trick we've ever learned. We show them what happens when you threaten the human species. The vote was closer than Kate had expected. Many leaders still hoped for a peaceful solution. But Lisa Parker's testimony about Zephyrian intentions finally convinced them. The aliens were coming to destroy humanity completely. There would be no mercy, no negotiation, no second chance. Paul Henderson stood up as the final votes were counted. By a vote of 127 to 98, the United Earth Council authorizes total military mobilization against the Zephyrian threat. May God help us all. Kate looked out the window at the peaceful Earth below. In a few months, that peace would be shattered. Forever. But perhaps, if they were very lucky and very clever, humanity might survive to see another dawn. The Zephyrians thought they were coming to destroy another weak species. They had no idea they were about to awaken something that had been sleeping in the darkness between the stars. Commander Alex Turner watched through the viewport of his converted cargo ship as the Zephyrian fleet approached Proxima Station. The alien vessels moved in perfect formation, their sleek hulls glowing with the confidence of a species that had never known defeat. Alex counted over 200 ships, each one larger and more advanced than anything in his small human flotilla. His own fleet consisted of 12 vessels, most of them civilian ships that had been hastily converted for military use. The largest was a former mining ship called the New Endeavor, commanded by Captain Beth Adams. The smallest was a research vessel that now carried experimental weapons, instead of scientific equipment. All ships, this is Commander Turner, Alex spoke into his communication device. Remember, we're not trying to win this battle, we're trying to teach them something. Beth Adams responded from the New Endeavor. Understood, Alex, my crew is ready. The Zephyrian fleet stopped just outside the range of Proxima Station's defensive weapons. A communication signal came through, and Alex recognized the arrogant tone immediately. It was Admiral Koreth, the same Zephyrian commander who had destroyed the Horizon. Human vessels, you will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Your species has been marked for elimination. Resistance is futile. Alex took a deep breath. This was the moment that would determine whether humanity lived or died as a free species. Admiral Koreth, this is Commander Turner. I have a message for you from the people of Earth. Speak quickly, human. My patience grows thin. The message is simple, Alex said. Go home. Leave human space and never return. This is your only warning. The sound of Zephyrian laughter came through the communication channel. You have 12 primitive ships against my fleet of 200. What possible threat could you pose? Alex smiled grimly. You're about to find out? The battle began exactly as everyone expected. The Zephyrian ships advanced in perfect formation, their weapons charging for what they assumed would be a quick and easy victory. Alex's ships scattered in all directions, seeming to run in panic, but this wasn't panic. It was strategy. The first surprise came from Tony Martinez, who was now commanding a modified science vessel called the Darwin. Instead of trying to fight the Zephyrian ships directly, he flew straight toward Proxima Station's asteroid mining facility. The Zephyrians followed. Expecting an easy kill, Tony's ship suddenly exploded in a massive nuclear blast that had been rigged to trigger when his life signs stopped. The explosion was so large that it destroyed 3 Zephyrian ships and damaged 5 more. But more importantly, it shattered the asteroid Tony had been mining, turning thousands of tons of rock into high-speed projectiles. The Zephyrian formation, which had worked perfectly for centuries of traditional warfare, became a death trap as asteroid fragments tore through their ships at incredible speeds. What kind of warfare is this? Admiral Korath screamed over the communication channel. You destroyed your own ship. Alex's reply was calm and cold. Human warfare. We fight to win, not to look honorable. The second surprise came from Captain Beth Adams. Instead of engaging the enemy ships with weapons, she programmed the new Endeavor to accelerate directly toward the largest Zephyrian vessel at maximum speed. The aliens tried to destroy her ship before impact, but Beth had covered the hull with layers of armor taken from the mining facility. The new Endeavor hit the Zephyrian flagship at nearly 10% the speed of light. The impact released energy, equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. Both ships were vaporized instantly, but the explosion took out 6 more Zephyrian vessels. This is madness, Admiral Korath broadcasted. No civilized species fights this way. We're not civilized, Alex replied. We're survivors. The third surprise was the most horrifying of all. Dr. Elena Vasquez had equipped several human ships with experimental gravity weapons that could create small black holes. These weapons violated every rule of galactic warfare, but humans had never agreed to follow galactic rules. The artificial black holes only lasted for a few seconds, but that was long enough to tear apart anything nearby. 3 more Zephyrian ships were destroyed by forces that should not have existed in normal space. By now, Admiral Korath was beginning to understand that he was not fighting a traditional enemy. The humans were using tactics that no galactic species had ever conceived. They treated their own ships as weapons. They used the laws of physics as tools of destruction. Most shocking of all, they seemed perfectly willing to die as long as they took enemies with them. All ships fall back to formation. 7. Korath ordered his fleet. Maintain safe distance from the human vessels. But Alex wasn't done teaching lessons. His remaining ships began broadcasting on all frequencies, sending detailed information about human defensive capabilities to every ship in the Zephyrian fleet. This information included technical specifications for weapons that didn't exist, battle plans for defenses that hadn't been built, and casualty estimates that were completely fictional. The psychological effect was exactly what Alex had hoped for. The Zephyrian commanders, trained in centuries of honorable warfare, couldn't understand why the humans would reveal their defensive secrets. The only logical explanation was that what they were seeing was just a small sample of human capabilities. Commander Turner, Admiral Korath's voice had lost its arrogant tone. What do you want? I want you to go home, Alex replied. I want you to tell your people what happened here. Tell them that humans don't fight by your rules. Tell them that we're perfectly willing to turn this entire galaxy into a graveyard, if that's what it takes to survive. The Zephyrian fleet began to withdraw, but Alex wasn't finished. Using the last of his experimental weapons, he demonstrated something that chilled every alien commander to their core. He detonated a small star in a nearby system, creating a supernova that could be seen for thousands of light years. That was just a test, Alex lied smoothly. Our real weapons are much more powerful. Admiral Korath's final transmission before his fleet jumped away contained a single word that would soon spread throughout the galaxy: monsters. Alex looked around at his surviving crew and ships. They had lost 8 vessels and over 300 people. By any military standard, they had been badly defeated. But they had achieved something more important than victory. They had planted a seed of fear in the minds of their enemies. The Battle of Proxima Station would be remembered as the day the galaxy learned that humans were not like other species. They didn't fight for honor or glory. They fought to survive, and they were very good at it. Word of the battle spread quickly through galactic communication networks. For the first time in centuries, a species had used tactics that terrified the mighty Zephyrian Empire. Other alien races began to take notice of these strange creatures from a small yellow star, the humans. It seemed were going to be a problem. President LeVar Mitchell stood before the largest gathering of world leaders in human history. Representatives from every nation sat in the emergency assembly hall that had been built beneath the Rocky Mountains. Outside, the peaceful Earth continued its daily routine, unaware that their species was preparing for a war unlike anything they had ever imagined. The battle at Proxima Station bought us time, but not much, Lavra said, her voice echoing through the massive chamber. Admiral Korath's fleet has returned to Zephyrian space, and our intelligence suggests they're preparing a much larger force for the next attack. Dr. Kevin Chang, the head of Earth's new weapons research program, stood up from his seat in the front row. His team had been working without sleep for months, developing technologies that Earth's enemies had never seen before. Madam President, Project Prometheus is ready for the next phase, Kevin said. We've successfully tested quantum torpedoes that can pass through any known shield technology. The warheads exist in a state of quantum uncertainty until they impact their target, making them impossible to intercept. General Marcus Stone, who now commanded all of Earth's military forces, added his own report. Our factories are producing warships at a rate of 50 per month. These aren't exploration vessels like the Horizon. These are designed specifically to kill alien ships as efficiently as possible. The new human warships looked nothing like the elegant vessels other species built. They were ugly, functional machines covered with weapons and armor. Every surface that didn't need to be smooth was covered with spikes and cutting edges. The ships looked like they had been designed by someone who understood that war was not about beauty. Dr. Carl Lewis, a physicist who had been working on humanity's most secret project, requested permission to speak. Lavra nodded, knowing that what he was about to reveal would change the nature of warfare forever. We have successfully created a weapon that can trigger stellar collapse, Carl said quietly. By using modified faster-than-light drives, we can destabilize the nuclear reactions inside a star and cause it to explode as a supernova. The chamber fell completely silent. The ability to destroy entire solar systems was beyond anything any galactic species had ever achieved. It was the ultimate weapon, capable of wiping out civilizations with a single shot. Industrial Coordinator Susan Wright stood up next. Her job was to transform Earth's entire economy into a war machine capable of supporting humanity's survival. Every major corporation has been converted to military production, Susan reported. We're not just building ships and weapons. We're creating an entire industrial base that can support total war for decades if necessary. Amy Foster, the head of Earth's Cyber Warfare Division, had been working on weapons that attacked enemy computer systems. Her creations were digital, viruses that could spread through alien networks and destroy everything they touched. The Reaper virus has been tested on captured Zephyrian technology, Amy said. It can infiltrate their ship systems and turn their own weapons against them. More importantly, it learns and evolves, becoming more effective each time it's used. Admiral Greg Adams, the brother of Beth Adams who had died at Proxima Station, commanded humanity's first war fleet. His ships were ready to carry the fight directly to enemy territory. We have 600 warships ready for combat, Greg reported. Each One is equipped with weapons that violate every galactic treaty about civilized warfare. Our crews have been trained to fight without mercy or hesitation. Dr. Nathan Price, Earth's leading expert on military strategy, had studied every conflict in human history to develop new ways of fighting. His ideas were based on a simple principle: if you're going to fight, fight to win completely. Traditional galactic warfare is based on honor and limited objectives, Nathan explained. Species fight until one side achieves a political goal, then they negotiate. We're going to show them a different kind of war. Total war, where the objective is complete destruction of the enemy's ability to fight. Lavra looked around the chamber, at the faces of Earth's leaders. 6 months ago, these people had been focused on trade agreements and environmental treaties. Now they were planning the systematic destruction of an alien empire. Are we really prepared to become the monsters they think we are? Asked the representative from Switzerland, a nation that had been neutral in every human conflict for centuries. Laura's answer was immediate and firm. They chose to make us their enemies when they destroyed the horizon. They chose to threaten our entire species with extinction. We didn't start this war, but we're going to finish it. The vote was unanimous. Every nation on Earth agreed to support total war against the Zephyrian Empire and any other species that threatened humanity. Over the next months, Earth transformed into something that would have been unrecognizable to previous generations. Factories that had once produced consumer goods now created weapons of unimaginable power. Scientists who had worked on peaceful research projects now focused on new ways to kill alien enemies. Children learned mathematics. Using examples of orbital mechanics for missile trajectories, the most frightening development was how easily humans adapted to their new reality. Species throughout the galaxy fought wars reluctantly, seeing them as temporary interruptions to normal life. Humans seemed to embrace warfare as if they had been waiting their entire evolutionary history for a worthy enemy. Dr. Elena Vasquez completed her work on Project Doomsday, a weapon that could crack planets like eggs. The technology was based on resonance frequencies that could shatter the molecular bonds holding matter together. A single shot could turn a world into an expanding cloud of dust. Captain Sam Miller trained the first human special forces units designed for operations in alien environments. These soldiers were equipped with biological weapons specifically created to target non-human physiology. They could infiltrate enemy installations and spread diseases that would kill aliens while leaving humans completely unaffected. The transformation of humanity was so complete that alien observers who had been monitoring Earth began filing reports that bordered on panic. The peaceful species that had built cities and created art had become something else entirely. They were now a race of warriors who treated warfare as a science to be perfected. When the first completed warships of the new human fleet launched from Earth's orbital shipyards, their departure was visible from the planet's surface. The ships rose like dark stars against the sky, carrying humanity's message to the galaxy: we are not victims. We are predators, and we are coming for anyone who threatens us. The galaxy was about to learn that making enemies of the human species was the worst mistake any civilization could make. Earth had awakened from its peaceful slumber, and the rest of the universe would never be the same. Admiral Greg Adams stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching as 12 Zephyrian worlds burned in the viewscreen before him. The human counterattack had begun 3 months ago, and already the proud warrior empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was collapsing under the weight of human fury. The first target had been a Zephyrian military shipyard on the edge of their territory. Captain Sam Miller had led a stealth team aboard converted civilian vessels that looked harmless to alien sensors. The Zephyrians had allowed the ships to approach, thinking they were refugees or traitors. The nuclear warheads hidden inside those ships had vaporized the entire facility along with the 300 vessels under construction there. But the real terror had come afterward, when the human cyber warfare virus had spread through the planet's communication network and destroyed every computer system on the world below. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian. Homeworld, Lieutenant Frank Howard reported from the communications station. "Put it through," Greg ordered. The face that appeared on the main screen belonged to Admiral Korath, the same Zephyrian commander who had destroyed the Horizon and started this war. He looked older now, and there was something in his eyes that Greg recognized. Fear. "Admiral Adams, I am requesting a ceasefire to discuss terms of surrender," Korath said. His proud warrior's voice reduced to barely more than a whisper. "There will be no ceasefire," Greg replied coldly. "And there will be no terms. You chose to make war on humanity. Now you get to learn what human war really looks like." The communication channel closed, but Greg knew that every species in the galaxy would be listening to recordings of that conversation within hours. The message needed to be clear. Those who threatened humanity would be destroyed completely. Commander Rachel Lewis had taken her strike force deep into Zephyrian space, targeting not military installations but the infrastructure that kept their civilization functioning. Power plants, food production facilities, transportation hubs, all of them were systematically destroyed by weapons that left no survivors and no possibility of repair. The psychological impact was devastating. The Zephyrians had built their empire on the belief that they were the galaxy's supreme warriors. Now they cowered in their homes as human ships appeared without warning and destroyed everything they had built. Lieutenant Colonel Frank Howard was leading the biological warfare campaign, deploying weapons that had been specifically designed to target Zephyrian physiology. The diseases spread quickly through their population centers, killing efficiently while leaving their infrastructure intact for future human use. Other alien species watched in horror as reports came in from the war zone. The humans weren't just defeating the Zephyrians, they were systematically exterminating them as a threat to human expansion. Dr. Carl Lewis, working from his laboratory ship behind the front lines, had perfected his star-killing weapon. 3. Zephyrian solar systems had already been destroyed, their suns turned into supernovas that could be seen from thousands of light-years away. The message was unmistakable. Humanity possessed the power to destroy entire worlds, and they were willing to use it. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions as refugee ships fled Zephyrian space carrying stories of human brutality. But the refugees' reports contained a detail that chilled every alien leader to their core. The humans were being systematic about their destruction. They weren't killing in anger or passion. They were methodically eliminating every aspect of Zephyrian civilization with the efficiency of a computer program. Captain Beth Miller, sister of the fallen Beth Adams, commanded a squadron of ships equipped with experimental weapons that violated every law of physics the galaxy understood. Her vessels could travel faster than light while remaining invisible to all known sensors. They struck without warning and disappeared before the enemy could respond. "This isn't warfare as we understand it," reported Ambassador Zaleth of the Altarian Consortium to the Emergency Council session. "This is extermination carried out with scientific precision." The truth was even worse than the aliens realized. Humanity wasn't just destroying Zephyrian military capability, they were studying their enemies while they destroyed them. Every battle provided new information about alien technology and tactics. Every victory made human weapons more effective. Dr. Amy Foster's computer viruses had evolved beyond their original programming. They now spread through any alien computer system they encountered, learning and adapting to new technologies. Several neutral species had already reported that their own ships and planetary defense systems had been compromised by human cyber weapons. The most terrifying reports came from Zephyrian survivors who had been captured and interrogated. The humans, they claimed, had shown no interest in honor or glory. They asked only technical questions about ship designs, weapon capabilities, and the locations of other alien civilizations. "They're not fighting for territory or resources," one traumatized Zephyrian officer told the Galactic Council. "They're fighting to gather information. Every ship they destroy teaches them something new. Every world they conquer gives them access to new technology. They're not just winning this war, they're using it to become stronger." Admiral Korath made one final attempt to save what remained of his people. He contacted every major power in the galaxy, offering them complete access to Zephyrian technology and territory in exchange for military aid against the human threat. The response was unanimous refusal. No species wanted to risk becoming humanity's next target. The end came suddenly. Human forces, led by Admiral Kate Sullivan herself, surrounded the Zephyrian homeworld with a fleet of over 1,000 ships. The planet's defenses, which had protected it for thousands of years, were overcome in less than 6 hours. Kate's final message to the Zephyrian people was broadcast across the galaxy: "Your empire is ended. Your military is destroyed. Those who surrender will be allowed to live as subjects of humanity. Those who resist will be eliminated. You have 1 hour to decide." The surrender was immediate and complete, but the rest of the galaxy understood that this was only the beginning. The humans had revealed capabilities that no species had ever imagined. They had fought a war with weapons that broke the laws of physics and tactics, that violated every rule of civilized combat. Worse still, intelligence reports suggested that everything the humans had used in the war against the Zephyrians was just a small sample of their real capabilities. The weapons that had destroyed an empire were apparently considered primitive by human standards. Ambassador Helen Clark, humanity's first representative to the Galactic Council, arrived on the neutral station of Harmony Base exactly 1 week after the Zephyrian surrender. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, the sort of person you might see teaching children or tending a garden. Her first speech to the assembled alien representatives was delivered in a quiet, pleasant voice that somehow made her words even more terrifying. "Humanity wishes to take its place as a member of the galactic community," Helen said with a gentle smile. "We hope to establish peaceful and profitable relationships with all civilized species. We're prepared to offer our protection to any world that wishes to join the human cooperative." The unspoken message was clear to every alien in the chamber: join us willingly, or we'll show you what happened to those who chose to be our enemies. The day the galaxy learned to fear humanity was not the day they attacked the Zephyrians. It was the day they realized that humanity viewed war not as a last resort, but as an opportunity to grow stronger. Commander Jennifer Morrison stood on the observation deck of the UES Horizon 2, named after the ship her father had commanded 2 years ago when humanity made first contact with the galaxy. The view outside showed a sight that would have been impossible to imagine when the original Horizon had been destroyed: a fleet of 3,000 human warships, preparing to explore uncharted space beyond the galaxy's rim. The war with the Zephyrians was over, and humanity had won more completely than anyone had thought possible. But victory had changed everything, not just for humans, but for every intelligent species in the galaxy. Ambassador Helen Clark walked onto the observation deck, carrying a datapad filled with the latest reports from across human-controlled space. At 70 years old, she had become the most feared diplomat in galactic history. Though she looked like someone's grandmother. "How many today?" Jennifer asked quietly. 17 more species have requested membership in the cooperative," Helen replied. "The Altarians are considering abandoning their neutrality to join us. Even the crystalline entities are sending representatives to discuss trade agreements." Jennifer nodded but felt no satisfaction. The human cooperative now controlled over 40% of the galaxy's inhabited systems, not through conquest but through voluntary membership. Species joined because they were terrified of what would happen if they didn't. The transformation of galactic civilization had been swift and total. Within 6 months of the Zephyrian surrender, humanity had become the dominant power in known space. Not because they had conquered anyone else, but because every other species was desperately trying to avoid becoming humanity's enemy. Dr. Martin Foster, now Director of Human Intelligence, had established monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. Any world that showed signs of developing military technology beyond approved limits received a visit from human advisors, who politely explained why such developments were not in anyone's best interest. The former Zephyrian Empire had become a model of what happened to species that threatened humanity. Their homeworld was now administered by human governors, and their surviving population worked in factories producing goods for the cooperative. They were well-fed and comfortable, but they would never again be permitted to build warships or weapons. The Council of Neutral Worlds has collapsed, Helen continued, reading from her reports. The Vivaldrans were the last holdouts, but they've agreed to accept human protection after the incident with their outer colonies. The incident Helen referred to had been a demonstration of human capabilities, when the Valdran government had announced plans to build their own stellar defense force. A human science ship had visited their system and caused their sun to flicker for exactly 30 seconds. The message was unmistakable. Humanity could extinguish their star permanently whenever they chose. Captain Lisa Parker, now fully recovered from her time as a Zephyrian prisoner, commanded the science division of the cooperative fleet. Her ships were not built for war but for research, though the line between human science and human weapons had become increasingly unclear. We've identified 3 more species beyond the galactic rim, Lisa reported over the ship's communication system. Long-range scans suggest they have developed faster-than-light travel but have not yet discovered jump gate technology. Jennifer listened to the report with mixed feelings. Each new species they discovered faced the same choice: join the cooperative willingly or risk being forced to join later. So far, no species had been foolish enough to choose resistance, Admiral Greg Adams, now Supreme Commander of all human military forces, had established a doctrine that was as simple as it was effective. Humanity would protect any species that accepted human leadership, and humanity would destroy any species that threatened human interests. There were no exceptions and no negotiations. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity, but they had also learned that human protection was absolute. Member species of the cooperative never had to worry about invasion or conquest by other powers, because humanity made it clear that attacking a cooperative member was the same as attacking Earth itself. Trade flowed freely between human-controlled worlds, protected by the most powerful fleet in galactic history. Scientific research advanced at unprecedented rates as human scientists gained access to thousands of years of alien knowledge. Art and culture flourished as species shared their heritage with their human protectors, but underneath the peace and prosperity, every alien knew the truth. They lived at humanity's sufferance, and that sufferance could be withdrawn at any moment. Dr. Kevin Chang's weapons research had continued, even after the war ended. Human technology now included devices that could manipulate time itself, weapons that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and defenses that bent space around human ships to make them effectively invulnerable. The gap between human capabilities and those of other species had grown, so large that resistance was not just futile but literally impossible. The children of alien species across the galaxy grew up learning human history alongside their own. They learned about the species that had come from a small blue world and changed everything. But the stories they learned were not tales of conquest or oppression. They were stories of protection and partnership. Human schools taught alien children that their species had chosen wisdom over warfare when they joined the cooperative. They learned that humanity's strength was used not to dominate but to defend. They were taught that the galaxy was a safer and more prosperous place because humans were willing to do whatever was necessary to maintain peace. The truth was more complex, but not entirely false. Humanity had indeed brought peace to the galaxy, though it was a peace enforced by the threat of total annihilation for anyone who broke it. Ambassador Helen Clark's final report to Earth contained a single paragraph that summarized humanity's position in the galaxy. We are no longer a species struggling to survive. We have become the species that other species fear to displease. The galaxy is peaceful because everyone understands that the alternative is extinction. As the Horizon 2 prepared to jump beyond the galactic rim in search of new worlds and new species to contact, Jennifer thought about her father's final message from the original Horizon. Humanity came in peace, but they were prepared for war. The galaxy had learned that humans meant both parts of that message with equal sincerity. They truly preferred peace and cooperation, but they were very good at war when peace was not possible. In the 2 years since first contact, Humanity had gone from being an unknown species on the edge of space to being the galaxy's undisputed apex predator. They had achieved this not through cruelty or oppression, but through the simple demonstration that threatening humanity was a mistake no species could afford to make twice. The day the galaxy learned to fear humanity was not the day they showed their weapons or won their battles. It was the day every species in known space realized that humans were the one race that actually enjoyed being good at war, and they had become very, very good at it indeed. As Jennifer looked out at the stars beyond the galaxy's edge, she knew that new species were waiting to be contacted. They would face the same choice that every species before them had faced: join humanity's growing family of protected worlds, or learn why that choice was the only reasonable one to make. The human species had found its place in the universe, and that place was at the top.